Day one of creating a starter. I get a lot of starter questions, so I want to go through this with you again. This would be my third time making a starter. You're going to need a jar to make your starter in. These are the jars that come in my starter kits. Those are available on my Etsy shop. The link is on my link tree. You also get a sample of Matilda if you want to try a different starter. You're going to need a scale because I use a scale when I feed my starter. I don't eyeball or use cup measurements. You're going to need flour. I'm just going to be using the King Arthur bread flour, which has a 12.7% gluten forming protein content. You can use a mixture of wheat and white flour, rye and white flour, or just all wheat or all rye, but for this one I'm just going to be doing bread flour. You're going to need warm filtered water, about 80 to 85 degrees. The warm water helps give the yeast in your starter a boost. They like warm environments to thrive in. No distilled water or reverse osmosis water. I have well water, so I just use the carbon filter in my refrigerator. I heat it up in the microwave. A Brita filter or some other carbon filter works fine too. If you have town water and it's chlorinated, put the water in your container and then leave it open on the counter overnight for that chlorine to dissipate, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is weigh our clean empty jar, and we do everything in grams in sourdough. So zero out your scale and you're gonna weigh your jar. This jar weighs 184 grams, so I write that on my jar. That will come into play tomorrow. Don't worry about that today. You don't need a ton of flour to make a starter or to even feed your starter once it gets going. So we're just going to start with 20 grams. That's it. So you're going to add 20 grams to your jar. Then we're going to add 20 grams of water. And then something to mix it with. I love these silicone spurtles. These also come with my starter kits. If you have just a spoon, use a spoon, a wooden spoon, whatever you got. You don't need something special. I know a lot of people say no to metal, but the amount of time it's in your starter, it's not going to hurt it. And that's kind of the consistency you want, like a thick pancake batter. Expectations, this might grow tonight and double. It might happen tomorrow night. That is normal, and then it's normal for it to go dormant for 4 or 5 days while that bad bacteria moves out and the good bacteria moves in. It does take 8, 9, 10 days to get a starter going. You should not save your discard or use your starter for the first 10 days because it is scientifically proven that there is bacteria present in the starter until then. That can be harmful. So the recommendation is to wait 10 days. It can take 2 to 3 weeks. Just depends. So now we're just gonna put our cover on it loosely. You don't wanna put a tight cover on it and seal it. It needs to have airflow to collect all the microorganisms that's in your environment to help that ferment. So find a nice warm place to put it in. It likes to be between 72 and 76 degrees, and come back tomorrow for day 2. Day 2 of creating our starter. So did get a couple of tiny bubbles, but that's about it. So now we have to feed this again. So we are going to discard, which just means you're going to remove some of this from your jar, and there should be 40 grams in here. So if we weigh our jar, my jar weighed 184, the scale says 222, so 38 grams are in here. But we're going to discard till we get to 20 grams. So our clean empty jar weighs 184. So when the scale says 204, I know there's 20 grams in here. Okay, so now my scale says 204 grams, so 204 minus 184 is 20. So that tells me there is 20 grams of starter left in this jar. You need to know how much starter is in your jar to feed it appropriately. If you have been cup or eyeball feeding, my recommendation is to switch to weight to keep a nice healthy starter. So now that we have our 20 grams, we're going to add 20 grams of water, our warm filtered water. Give that a little stir. Okay. And now we are going to add 20 grams of our unbleached bread flour. Okay, so we're back to that thick pancake mix consistency. You want to make sure it is really well stirred. So you can mark your jar if you want. The easiest way I do it is just to use a permanent marker. This comes off with some little Dawn Power Wash and a little scrub comes right off, or you can put an elastic around your jar, whatever your preference is. So we're gonna cover it up with our loose lid, and it's good for another 24 hours. So come back tomorrow for day 3.